You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about coming face to face with our past choices. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And joining us for this episode is one of the many loves of Matt's life, the history wizard, Professor John Lestrange.
Hi.
Welcome. I love that of all his accomplishments, you being his spouse is not one of them, but my love is.
I know where I stand. I offered to leave.
At the top of the list. You are at the top of the list.
You are in the closest physical proximity, so it's not like I can compete much.
I'm not just saying that because you're sitting right next to me. It's because it's true.
Look, I can just leave and give you guys some time to yourselves if you needed. I'm just being respectful here.
First of all, you know full well that if you leave this podcast, it will go off the rails so fast because you're the only thing keeping it on track.
Second of all, I'm here for that Krogan scout team, not Matt.
Oh.
That's also true.
Okay.
I love you, Matt.
I love you too. All right. Well, John, it's always great to have you back. We love having you on the show. Why don't you let the listeners know what you've been up to since your last time on Reignite?
TikTok.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Wait, no, that's going to need a little bit more explanation.
Yeah.
I've been working on a third book. I've been trying to find time to edit it. It's very, very difficult, but I'm excited to get back to that at some point when I finally have time and energy again. I've been teaching remotely, which is not fun at all. It's very annoying, but it's what we got to do to get through this pandemic. And I started the TikTok back in August to tell people about dumb fun history facts that I like the time juggling stopped a war in China. And now I have 76,000 people following me on that dumb app because I shout about politics sometimes. So that's what I've been up to.
They also follow you because you a snack.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, too. I think it's very funny that you grew a following so fast, not because there's anything wrong with it. Like, your content is actually very good. It's just that, like, I had been puttering around on that app for many more months before you, and I barely have 100 followers. I also don't put a lot of effort into my TikToks, let's be real. And then you came along, started yelling at some conservatives, and got 25, or you're at like 75,000 followers now or something?
Yeah.
And that's awesome. I love it. I think that one of the most fascinating conversations that I had with you on my other podcast, Autographs, was your history knowledge and like how you engage with it. And so I'm so glad that this platform has allowed you to kind of do that more because you weren't really on Twitter very much. And so it's good that you have a platform to do it.
Yeah, I remember we talked about like what we as straight white men can like do with our privilege and with our platforms to help, and I apparently found a thing that I can do.
Yeah, that's awesome. You have given us your rundown of choices in previous episodes, but we have some stuff to catch up on.
Mm-hmm.
Some choices to update. First, the big update is whether you kill or rewrite the Geth. Being the man who talks about genocide, this seemed like a big one to get your piece on.
Yeah, so I always choose to rewrite the Geth, which seems like possibly a strange choice because a lot of people consider it to be brainwashing. But because of how the Geth synthesize data, because of how they all go out and they learn things individually and then bring it home to a collective, and then they all get that information instantly and then rewrite themselves based on those new experiences, what we're doing when we're rewriting the Geth is we're just giving them a crash course in other cultures, which is generally speaking how we educate people out of their racism and the dehumanizing rhetoric that they've been propagandized with anyway. Plus, based on things that we learn a little bit later in 3, it feels like less of a brainwashy choice because they do still have free agency to make choices outside of what we rewrote them into. So I am very comfortable with that particular choice.
Yeah, I think the more that we talk to other guests about it, the more it seems like there's still no right answer per se, but like that there are lots of logical reasons why you make either or choice. And even though it's a difficult choice, lots of folks have come up with different reasons why they've made that choice. And I find that really interesting.
I can definitely see the justifications for just blowing up the Geth base. But, it's a thing that I am uncomfortable with.
Next, of course, I think I already know the answer, as it's the answer for most of our guests, but the collector base. Did you give it to the Elusive Man or blow it the fuck up?
I would rather give the Elusive Man a grenade than the collector base. I hate him so much. He is the worst. My love for Martin Sheen notwithstanding, the Elusive Man is objectively the worst person across all 3 games. Genocidal starships notwithstanding, he is the worst. And I will always, always, always blow up the collector base.
And then finally, your romance for ME2. Did you continue a romance from Mass Effect 1 in your ideal playthrough, or did you find a new love?
So, in my ideal playthrough, they would let Mailshep romance Garrus. But they don't. And you know what? No, there's a thing that happens in the final mission. There's a line that Garrus has, regardless of whether or not you romance him, and I'm not going to spoil you on it, but like, it's such a beautiful and poignant line, and I think you both know which one I'm talking about. It's just like, why can't I romance him? We clearly love each other so much. But ideal Mass Effect 1 playthrough, I don't romance anyone because Liara is basically 18 and Ashley is a racist. Mass Effect 2, Tally. Because, who, still a young character, but I love how much she cares and how much she understands the fact that if she doesn't take a stand and help when she has the ability to, then what's the point in going on pilgrimage and having the agency to do things if you're not going to do stuff?
I mean, I'm with you on the let Mailshep be gayer train, but for Thane, not for Garrus. But but that said, still, Mail Shepherd should be gayer. I mean, all shepherds should be gayer.
Let Shepherd be gayer and also polyamorous, and then...
Yes.
¿Por qué no los dos?
So now we're all caught up. Let's get into the summary.
Yes, let's.
When we left off on our last episode, both Primarch Victus and Rex told Shepard, "I have a secret mission for you, and I cannot bring it up in front of the other people in this room. Come see me. It'll be fine." Certainly no war crimes to be had here.
Nope.
No one did anything wrong, I promise.
I trust them implicitly.
So, we're focusing on the mission given to us by Rex. Rex gives Shepard a secret mission. Something hinky is going on out by the Rachni relay, and the scouts he sent to investigate didn't return. He wants Shepard to meet up with the Aralak company to find out what's going on. When Shepard arrives, they are greeted by a familiar face, anxious to get the fight started. After taking a nasty tumble, Shepard's squad discovers that not even the Rachni are safe from the Reaper's attention. Shepard is faced with a familiar choice. Kill the queen or save her? Is she even the same queen that they knew?
Yeah, this mission is one that is one of my favorites, not only just because, I get to see my son again, and we'll get to that, but also because I always thought this was I don't know why. I always thought this was a different Rachni queen, but this time through, I realized it's not.
I have a lot of meta feelings about this mission because it's one of the times where Mass Effect takes the choices that you made in previous games and shits on them and says, no, they didn't actually matter. Because no matter what you do, there will be a Rachni queen there. Whether you kill her or not, there is a Rachni queen.
However, if you did kill her, the Rachni queen you encounter is different. She is one that was created by the Reapers. And then, if you decide to save her, she makes your life hell and ruins everything for the Alliance.
Yeah. It's a really strange... Well, so let's talk about this before we get into our check-ins. John, why did you choose this mission, besides the obvious answer of Grunt?
Because Case took the one that I wanted.
That seems
Damn you, Case!
Case, I'm putting you on blast. Pistols, Dawn, guns, drawn. No, but the mission that I wanted to pick not being available, this is the closest to my particular field of study. We dealt with the Rachni in 1. We face a very similar choice in 3 and what to do with them. It's a very Sophie's choice in regards to whether or not you're going to protect your son or do the right and moral and ethical thing. And I just felt like it was an important thing to talk about.
Awesome. MJ, do you want to take us into our check-ins and talk a little bit about who we chatted with this time?
Yeah. As I mentioned, we get 2 secret missions. One is from Primarch Victus. He lets us know that a ship went down on Tuchanka, but every time we want to know about this ship, he's like, I'm sorry, that's classified. Boy!
You want me to go risk my life on Tuchanka? And you're just like, I'm sorry, it's classified.
Not if you want my help, it's not classified.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'm a specter. I know everything, or I can know everything. What are you doing?
It's a matter of galactic peace.
But I can't know why.
Everything's a matter of galactic peace right now. We're literally fighting the dark gods of the universe.
And at first I was annoyed that I couldn't press this guy for more information, but you kind of can.
Yeah.
But you don't really find out anything when you do. You just find out that his son is involved, and that's it.
Yeah.
Which explains why we have to go.
That's reason enough to help Adrian Victus, honestly, as far as I'm concerned. I'm also tired of the Turians messing with Tuchanka. I'm just fed up with it.
Yeah. I wrote down the quote, but I don't remember the context. The Krogan started using asteroids as weapons. It just gives me joy.
Yeah, I think he was just talking about the end of the Krogan rebellion.
Yeah, I think so,
because he was talking
too.
about, you remember the state that Monet was in when you went there to get the Primarch? That's where we had our last stand against the Krogan, because they started using asteroids as weapons. That's how
right.
relentless they were.
Damn.
When we go to talk to Rex, he repeats the phrase, just like the old days, which is very common throughout this entire game. This is not the first time we've heard it. It's not going to be the last time we've heard it. It's not even the last time we'll hear it in this coming mission.
Yes, correct. There's a lot of like nostalgia baiting a little bit in this game, which I mean is kind of the point of this game, right? The whole game is a conclusion to the series, and it wants you to think about
everything is coming to an end.
Right, but you're right. It does come up a lot, and more than I had realized.
You have some like nice little banter with Rex. My favorite quote being, "I gave you the moral support to dodge the bullets."
Yes, that was great.
Yes, you're very helpful. Thank you.
There's a follow up to that when we talk to Steve in a little bit, related to Rex and the shuttle, and Rex not helping.
Rex is a sassy bitch, and I love him. He's great. And this whole conversation is just him being a smug little asshole.
That is very true.
Talking more to Rex reveals that he has a favor to ask us about the Rachni relay. His scouts went silent, as I said in the summary, and he wants us to go investigate. That's fine. But let's talk more about Rex and leading the Krogan.
Yes.
What are his plans now that he has a cure for the genophage? And he makes it very clear that he wants to change his people. He doesn't want revenge to be on the table. War has never brought us anything but misery.
Yeah, and when we talk to Eve in a few moments, Eve mirrors that, even though Rex can be an ass, like, he has vision for his people, which not a lot of strong Krogan had for a while, and that's really exciting to hear, especially considering it seemed how well he was leading just his clan in the last game. To know that he's leading his entire people that way is really exciting.
It's really good that we all saved Rex back in ME1, because if he's not around and Erdnot Reeve is in charge of the Krogan, he does not share Rex's vision of a peaceful galaxy. He fully intends to take revenge on the Council species once the genophage is cured and just go right back to war. Yeah,
I do regret that we don't have that perspective here, because what we both saved Rex, but then again, like, it's Rex. Of course, I'm going to save him, but I can see in the third game it does make it apparent, something that a recent review of the pod brought up, is that me and MJ having similar major decision choices has made the playthrough in 3 very similar when it could have diverged a lot more. That said, there are other choices that seem to not even matter, as John mentioned earlier, so we'll broach those choices as we get to them.
Talking more to Rex, he reveals something big is brewing on Tuchanka, referring to the attention that the Reapers are paying to Tuchanka. And then he also has some really bad views on interacting with women.
Yeah.
Like, he pretends to listen when Krogan women talk.
Krogan women have a temper.
Like, yeah, okay, sure. Any woman would have a temper. Any human would have a temper if you treated them that way, Rex.
Yeah, but Eve can
Special.
bench press Rex on a good day, so like...
That's true.
And then he closes out my conversation with talking about how he likes the new Normandy and that he doesn't have a fancy window like Liara does. And then he's just like, maybe it's because I'm not as good of a kisser. I'm just like, I'm going to leave now.
Oh yeah, he didn't use that line on me, but he did say that he likes the new Normandy. He likes that he doesn't have to hang out in the cargo hold all the time, but he still doesn't have a window like Liara does.
Well, first come, first serve.
Also, he didn't have to hang out in the cargo hold last time. He chose to hang out down there. It was a big ship.
It's true. That is definitely true. When we leave this area, the guards didn't make any mention of anything that I noted, but I do enjoy their banter of them just kind of like, it's usually guard 1 says something and then guard 2 goes, what are you talking about? That's terrible.
Well, here's the thing with these two guards. It's Private Westmoreland and Private Campbell. And they exist to give you both sides of a conflict.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they were talking about. I didn't write it down because it didn't seem like interesting to comment on. But whenever Westmoreland says something, Campbell is there to give the opposite view on it, which is helpful for us as the player to see the different sides of something, and that might help us figure out where we stand on something.
Yeah, and I actually got more background on these two characters and why they're on the ship. So if you talk to Joker after you just have his comment of the day on whatever last mission you did, if you push him, you ask about how they got the ship when they had to leave, when we had to leave during the lockdown. And Jeff mentions that he used Edie as a scapegoat and said, she helps me for medical reasons. She has to come with me. And then once they got onto the ship, she was able to take over and get the ship going. And they did it in such a rush because usually Jeff would have an escort of 2 guards. Those 2 are the 2 guards that were his escort on and off the ship for repairs and checking stuff. And so when they stole the ship, the guards were still on the ship, and he didn't feel comfortable throwing them out the airlock as a joke. I assume was a joke. And so that's why they're there. They're 2 of the human guards guarding the ship when you left Earth, and when they just took the ship and went, they were stuck. So they gave them a job in that room, guarding that room, and that's why they're there, and that's who they are. And I think that's really actually quite awesome.
I would like a Campbell and Westmoreland sitcom, please and thank you. BioWare,
it practically is.
BioWare, I want that and Andromeda 2 for Christmas, thank you.
Good luck with that.
So speaking of Joker, my favorite quote from Joker's conversation is referring to the Turians and the Krogan. They've got so much in common, like shooting things and not wanting to die. And that's really it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noted, I think, to MJ right after that little bit of a conversation is something that I might have just been thinking of because I've been reading Percy Jackson, but the Krogan and Turian are very much like the Greeks and the Romans. They're both very military-like people, but the Greeks are far more just rush in and smash things, and the Turians and the Romans are significantly more invested in military discipline and like proper tactics instead of just, smashing things wildly and cutting the heads off of snake women. I don't know if that was intentional on the part of BioWare, but it was an interesting parallel to note as a historian.
Something else that Jeff brings up is that he jokes about inviting the Batarians or the Vorcha to the summit.
Yeah.
But we should.
Yeah.
Like, we absolutely should.
We should invite everyone to this summit. Get us the Volus and their economic connections. Get us the Elcor and their... I'm sure they have something to contribute. I don't know the Elcor well enough, but I'm sure that they do. Their gravity stuff.
Yeah, I mean... Like, Joker's not wrong. Like, Joker is clearly joking, but yeah, it's odd that the game is like, all of these races that you can play as in Versus, those are the only ones coming to the summit, because it's essentially the multiplayer races. It's the races that have been in your party. Those are the only ones invited to the summit, and it's just very odd that that's like why so many other races especially non-military, seemingly non-military races are not involved or not invited.
Well, it's because they're not the power in the galaxy.
Yeah, right.
There's some inherent racism in the choices for who to call into this conflict that will literally affect every single sentient. Like, the Reapers leave behind civilizations that aren't sufficiently advanced enough to have access to, mass relay technology, but that doesn't include the Batarians and the Vorcha and the Volus and the Elcor. They will all be targeted for whatever the terminology that the Reapers use is. Same with the humans and
Harvest.
the Turians. They'll all be targeted for harvested, the same as every other Citadel species. So why not call them in? They have a vested interest in this fight as well.
Yeah, it does seem strange to leave them out.
Yeah. I mean, Elcor might not be like the most well-spoken people from a human standpoint, but they're literally walking tanks. You can mount heavy guns on them. Like...
Yeah, it is odd.
Oh, and then he has something nice to say about Morden. Bad guys shouldn't get the monopoly on mad scientists.
Mad scientists, yeah. I love that. I think that
one.
was good.
Edie had some very important questions that John and I were both like, well, damn, those are very important things to think about. Why didn't we think about those things?
Well, because
the checklist stuff for the Krogan once the genophage is
the
cured.
logistics stuff, yeah. They're going to need food. They don't have any ships. They've been entirely demilitarized, so they have no starships.
Yeah.
I never considered that.
Yeah, and that they don't do well on starships, so they need to be sedated or they will kill each other. Like, and she's asking all these questions, and like I don't know that I've ever related to my Shepard more than in that moment where Shepard's just like, no, we should. Yes, okay, I didn't think of yes, we should do that. Anything else? And like, I love that. Shepard says twice anything else, and there's something else.
Yep. And like, it all starts with Edie being like, I would like you to realize just for a moment that one Krogan female can have up to 1,000 eggs.
Yeah.
A year.
And there are 1 billion Krogan female.
Yeah.
So, in a year, there could be 10 billion new Krogan children. I just want you to think about that. I'm not saying there's anything good or bad about it. I just want you to think about it.
Yep. But then proceeds to tell you, but that said, here are some things that we're definitely going to need or shit's going to go sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Krogan can't eat Turian food. Oh, right. I'm not sure that one's right. I'm pretty sure the Krogan can just eat anything. They survive on a planet that is literally or was ravaged by nuclear winter and has thresher maws. I think they'll be fine in regard to that.
Theoretically, but the Turian planet is covered in some type of radioactive material. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah. But, like, the reason why the Krogan were originally uplifted is because, like, they thought, oh, no one else can survive the, like, harsh conditions of Suen, but the Krogan literally are sunbathing in a nuclear winter, so, like, they'll be fine, right? But BioWare takes a certain amount of liberties with Krogan physiology and what it can apparently stand up to, as we will talk more about when we get to Eve.
Yeah.
Before we get there, though, Edie's conversation skews towards transhumanism and something that is very cyberpunk, merging of technology with humanity.
Yeah.
And Shepard's just like, am I transhuman? What? What does this mean?
Also, it's really interesting because Edie, in her conversation with Shepard also says, I think and I wonder. And Shepard quickly goes, wait, you can wonder? You can, like, it's fun to see Shepard engage with Edie's developing emotional intelligence as she learns to have free will and interact as a human kind of character or more human-like. And I always enjoy those conversations.
After Edie, we stop in with Trainer, who feels very useful. And while Trainer's being like, I did a good job, Edie chimes in to, like, gas Trainer up even further. Like, Trainer is instrumental and, like, did this really good thing. And I'm just like, yes. Girl squad.
Support each other. Girl squad. Yeah, no, I like Trainer a lot. She's the kind of peppy admin that I, like, in my day job would often work with and enjoy being around, because they just kind of get everybody jazzed. And you need that kind of energy in your life, because Lord knows it's hard for me to get jazzed sometimes. So having someone who's like really eager and really upbeat and really smart is really great to have around.
She also talks about how working on the Normandy, while it is cramped and forces her to live out of a shoebox, she would take it over being back in the lab any day, because all she has to do is say to Edie, like, hey, there is this really expensive thing that would improve such and such. Can we license it? And Edie's just like, yes, we can. I'm doing it right now.
Yeah.
And it shaves like 3% off of like our delays or whatever.
Which honestly is a very big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything over 1% is a big deal, pretty much.
Trainer and Edie are just a terrifying combination that I would never want to have to fight against.
If I didn't ship Joker and Edie so much, Trainer would be...
Oh no, I do ship Trainer and Edie. Edie very clearly loves Specialist Trainer, and I do not blame her.
Yeah.
He doesn't. Got some emails. Do you remember in Mass Effect 1 when we were on Vermeer and we were going to blow up the Krogan cloning facility?
I remember that mission. Yeah, for sure.
Do you remember the Asari that was there?
Yeah, of course.
So we get an email with a news alert about an Asari that was indoctrinated and tried to blow up a research facility, and that was her.
Yep. I saw that, yeah.
So it's a sad end for her. She was always trying to do a good thing, but always wound up involved in really shitty things as a result.
It was a very sad end for Rana Thanoptis, just to get her name in there. But I'm not surprised that she wound up indoctrinated by the Reapers, just because of the amount of time that she spent working with Saren. And I guess working with Okeer, she didn't exactly have access to Reaper tech then to become indoctrinated by. But, I mean, who knows how it lingers and what effects it has long term.
And also just her propensity for being like, oh, this sounds like it'll help other people, and it turns out that it's like run by a warlord or run by a mercenary band.
Rana Thanoptis is very, very good on paper because she desperately wants to help people, but she does not vet the organizations that she goes to work for before she dives in with both feet, and then she winds up working for war criminals time and time and time and time again.
Yeah.
Well, only 2 times that we know of.
I wanted to emphasize.
Okay. We got an email from Kirhi. We got an email from Farron.
The Solarians don't deserve Kirhi. I just want to get that in here.
Kirhi is great.
He is amazing. I want my Solarian romance.
Moving down a level, Adams and Shaquas are actually hanging out together in the
in the crew quarters.
Yeah, in the crew quarters. I was just like, chambers? No.
Quarters
that's not the word that I want.
No, that's
quarters would be the word. Yeah. So it's funny. I don't think I ever noticed this in previous playthroughs. Just like Javik, when he wasn't there, I just didn't go looking for him, and I felt like an idiot because now, of course, he's not there. He's not in a different part of the ship anymore this time around. He's back in his quarters. Because I went to talk to Eve and Morden first, which we'll get to. But after I did that, I went, wait, where's Chakwas? She's got to be in the ship somewhere. If Javik will wander from his room, that means she's not just disappeared. She's somewhere. And so I wandered looking for her and found her and Adams talking. And that conversation that you can witness is so awesome and
it's
so
heartbreaking.
Sad. It breaks my heart. Poor Space Mom.
I want to hug her so bad. Because her whole thing is, like, she's trying to put on a brave face and tell Adams what happened. And just be like, oh, yeah, this happened. It was totally fine. And he's just like, is it, though?
And she just breaks down. She's like, no, I'm not okay, actually, on second thought. And I think she actually cries.
She does. She does start crying. And I'm just like, Mom!
And like why I'm saying that's awesome though is because like you never see that side of her, and this is such a good conversation to witness that I somehow always missed. Also, even more importantly, we learn that Adam's first name is Greg.
I missed that point. What I do like though on the back end of this is when you just click on Engineer Adams to like try and talk to him. He just says, "Oh, hi, Commander," and that's it.
That's
Yeah.
it.
No sign that he just had this big heart-to-heart with Karen Chakwas. No sign that he might not be doing okay. It's just like, sup, Adams?
And like she's there because Morden is a little too energetic for her to be around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she says that Morden didn't even ask her to leave. She didn't feel comfortable being there because he just seemed to need all of the space. So she just got out of the way.
And honestly, he probably does need all the space. Not literally, but just like figuratively, he probably paces a lot and takes up like enough space for 4 Krogan just on his own, just with his presence.
Yeah. That's likely correct.
Nothing really from Liara, but she and Rex are on a call together, and I really
Yep.
appreciate their friendship.
Yep. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This game really fleshes out the relationships minus Shepard, which was important and almost non-existent in the first 2 games. So it's great to see that every time.
There is something actually that I want to point out about the conversation between Liara and Rex. I don't have any particular lines from it, but the main thrust of the conversation is Rex asking Liara if she still thinks that like the Prothean nonsense that she's been studying all of her life is actually going to help anything. And Liara still has so much faith in what's effectively Prothean magic. Like, one, they lost. Let's just get that out there. They lost the last war. They clearly weren't good enough to get it done. And 2, we have no idea what the Crucible does. But Liara just has so much faith in it. And maybe that's just because she has to have faith in something, or she'll just like break down and cry about how horrible everything is. But like, how do you still have so much faith in these people when you've met Javik and he kind of sucks?
I mean, that's a mood considering we are recording this the day before Election Day. So if you're hearing this in the future, yay or I'm sorry. Anyway, but it's really a mood. Like, having blind faith can be damaging, but also sometimes it's key to survival, even if it's not blind faith in the sense that you won't take anything else in, but just you will follow something with endless faith in order to keep yourself going. And like, I respect that. It's not easy to do, and sometimes it's not good to do for sure, but like, I respect that Liara feels so passionately about this and still feels like it'll help. And I think you bring up a good point, John. Like, part of it is probably very much like, well, I don't know what else to do, so I will continue leaning into this one thing I do know.
Yeah. And, even though they did lose, they got the furthest. So it's a starting point. It's something that can inspire hope.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm just shocked, honestly. Yeah. Especially considering how jaded Liara has become for so many other things. This, she still has an almost childlike faith in. And that's either weird or beautiful. You decide.
Yeah.
I checked in on my boyfriend, and his first thing is like, they say that female Krogan have a thing for guys with scars. Am I gonna be okay? Like, do I need to leave?
Yeah. Are they gonna force me into an arranged marriage to cement the alliance?
I don't know. Do I need to go?
And like, Morden also mentions the same thing, like trying
Morden,
to pair with Eve.
I will cut you.
Honestly, I cracked up on that because you just leave this conversation with Garrus, like talking about how Krogan women love scars, and then you walk into Morden and Eve, and the very first thing he says is, I hear Krogan women have a thing for scars. Garrus has a bunch of those, and he's almost Krogan-like in his temperament. And Eve's just like,
I am not interested. I am like, good. He's spoken for.
Do not want Frog Boy.
A couple of other things from Garrus, though, is that he has a really deep admiration for Eve for, like, having to be the hope of her entire people and just taking it with such grace. Like, that's a terrifying thing. And also he talks about how Krogan women are clearly the real brains on Tachanka.
Yeah, which, like, duh, but also yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is why I love you, Garrus, because you have a healthy appreciation for women.
The thing that I like about the Krogan females, and this might be jumping forward just a little bit, is that they're like, there's Clan Erdnot, there's, Clan Werlock, there's all these other, male clans, but then there's just the female clan. They don't split themselves up, tribally like the men do. It's just, here's the female clan.
Yeah, something that Eve says during your conversation with her is rivalries are the invention of the males.
Yep.
Yep.
You did jump us ahead a little bit, at least ahead in my notes. Yeah, Morden trying to push Garrus on Eve, which is very rude. He knows that we're dating.
Well, I mean, for me, it wasn't rude. It was just funny.
For me, it was rude.
I understand.
But Eve...
For me, as best friend to Garrus, it's like, ha ha ha. I mean, it would be awesome, but also, ha ha.
Eve is really trusting of Morden.
Yeah.
While Rex is incredibly annoying to her.
But Morden is just so nonplussed by Rex's posturing and his threats. He's just like, yeah, okay, been there, done that, got half of my horn ripped off.
See,
yeah.
I think that Morden actually gets kind of worked up when Rex walks in to be like, I have to make sure that he's treating you well and he's not like sticking you for no reason and whatever. What are you doing? What kind of blood test? What's it for? And Morden's just like, she's my patient and my responsibility. Will you fuck off?
Sure, but I think that the reason why Morden gets worked up isn't because he in any way feels threatened by Rex.
No.
It's because he's upset that someone would dare question his professional ethics.
That's what I was trying to say.
Which, Morden, to be fair, you did modify the genophage, so, like, maybe, step off that high horse.
Yeah, that'll never happen. He lives on a high horse.
Then there is an implication that Rex is afraid of needles.
Yeah, which was great. And then there's this really touching moment that happens, especially if you have an affinity for Morden, is as you're talking to Eve about Morden, like it cuts to Morden talking to himself as he always does, which is a mood. And the first time it cuts to him, he's just talking about science stuff. I can't possibly begin to regurgitate it. But then as they're talking, when it cuts back to him the second time, he continues the Gilbert and Sullivan thing and like just goes do 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 dee 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 dee, like literally says those words. It's just adorable. I love it. It's so good.
It's very cute. Talking to Eve is a really interesting thing. She's a shaman for her people. She talks about what it takes to become a shaman, which we realized an inconsistency based on our conversation with Eve. Edie, rather.
Before we get to that little part of the conversation, just Eve's line of like what it takes to become a female shaman. And she says, wisdom comes from pain, and the genophage has made us wise. And
I wrote that down too.
Damn!
Yeah,
like,
that's powerful.
That's a very powerful thing to say, but also like, that's, if wisdom really does come from pain, then the Krogan are the wisest people in the galaxy right now.
Well, at least their women are.
Well,
yeah.
Yes. And Rex is, a few steps behind, but working on catching up.
Like, normally I really hate narratives where it's like, they're infertile, and therefore that tells you everything you need to know about their struggle. However, Eve is very clear that being infertile, or at least struggling with fertility, does not define her. It is something that hurts her people as a whole, and it's something that is definitely a struggle, but it is not the only struggle, and it doesn't take away any of her strength or her value.
Yeah. She does mention that some Krogan women can't bear the shame of being infertile and just walk out into the wastes waiting for a thresher maw to get them. But it's sort of just like mentioned in the same sort of it's mentioned the same as everything else that she's talking about, as if it's just a thing that happens and it's not a huge defining part of them or their culture.
While talking about what it takes to become a shaman, they're trapped in a cave with only enough food for 7 days, and on the 8th day they'll starve. How can they starve if they also store nutrients in their humps? Unless that's only a male Krogan thing.
I don't know, but even if like only male Krogan store like food in their humps, because we've seen that the female Krogan they don't have big old humps like Rex does, but then again, neither does Grunt really. But a squishy meatbag human will survive 3 weeks without food.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't get how Krogan, a creature with 4 testicles, 5 lungs, a redundant nervous system, and 4 hearts, will starve after 8 days. Like, they're literally supposed to be the toughest species on the planet that we picked to fight the Rachni because they drink nuclear waste for lunch, but like a week without food will kill them? BioWare?
I mean, well, but that said, a hardier system requires more food. In most fiction and science fiction, hardier, larger creatures require more than squishy humans. And so maybe because they need the harvest nutrients from their hump, maybe that plus eating keeps them alive versus, I don't know. Look, I don't have an answer.
No, it's possible. That's a good point. I mean, they do have so many redundant organ systems that it is possible that they just need. I always assumed that the redundant systems were not all functioning at the same time. They were just there to kick in if one failed. But to keep them at least like not with like experiencing necrosis, they probably do need a little bit of energy, and that probably does eat into their energy stores pretty quickly. So that is possible. But also, BioWare, explain please.
Did Eve give you the crystal?
No.
Eve gave me the crystal. That's very interesting.
I don't think she's never given me the crystal. I think that she does that because she considers you to be the female shaman for the humans.
Huh.
And that it is a sort of thing of
guess.
solidarity, because she also makes comment near the end of the conversation about how like it's good to see that the humans respect you enough to put you in this position of authority, and like we'll show them how it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I didn't get.
So she gave me a crystal, which she had used to help herself get out of this cave and become a shaman. We find that she respects Rex. It's a loving disrespect sometimes. And it's just like, Rex. But also, she respects his politics.
Yeah.
And the change that he wants to bring to the Krogan. I have this really great quote from her. There is no reason to exist other than hope that the next day will bring change. And if it doesn't, there is always the next.
Yeah, that was a big, like, oh, that's a mood. I'm going to tattoo that on my forehead for the next 2 weeks.
I have a line that comes right before that. The genophage forces us to live on hope alone. There is nothing else. And like, Eve, my heart.
Eve is such a powerful speaker. She's definitely, she has what it takes to be a leader. And Rex is going to need her in order to like evoke emotion from the people that are supposed to be following them. Like, just from this conversation with Eve, I would follow her anywhere.
Same. She's charismatic on equal levels with many other characters, but I think even more so than many of the characters we've encountered before.
She also says it takes only one candle to light a fire. Like,
after that, the darkness is no more.
She's so passionate, and I love her.
She's amazing, and I hope that we do get a sequel where we get to see her again, but who knows?
Eve for Galactic President.
Agree.
Yes, please.
Talking to Morden, we find out that Malon is actually missing.
He, I think, just kind of vanished. He apparently like couldn't let go of the failure and just kind of disappeared. Which is sad, because we wanted to try and help him ultimately and stop him, and for him to just vanish is kind of a bummer.
While talking to Morden, he's just very fussy over Eve. He's just like, she could use a blanket. Something soft.
Yeah.
Well, Morden is very, very concerned with, because like the mutations that Eve's organs underwent to bypass the genophage, they didn't work quite right. So like she's constantly just a little on the frail for a Krogan side, which means that she could only bench press, 2 of James instead of 5 of James. And like, so if you don't save Malin's data in 2, if Morden doesn't have that, Eve will die making the cure.
I didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she will not survive the procedure without Malin's data. It is absolutely, the genophage will still be cured. She will just die.
That's sad. I'm glad that we saved the data.
Yeah, so there are, and these are like the small things that like you won't know unless you make these like other bad choices, right?
Yeah.
Because like the decisions, the the moments that they affect are very, very small, and what should be like big earth-shattering changes to the world, it's just a little thing. Eve's dead, and then think of the implications for Rex not having Eve as he tries to unite the Krogan and keep them from a warlike path.
Oh yeah, it would be a nightmare.
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
Morden talks about what he wants after the Reaper War. He wants to go to a beach, collect seashells, perform tests on them.
Maybe perform tests on the seashells. And then he just walks off.
Yeah, he just trails off. Oh, Morden.
Oh, Morden.
Morden is the ultimate utilitarian pragmatist, though, because when you ask him, like, hey, so, like, now you're working so hard to cure the genophage, does this mean that you've turned around on it because you used to defend your work so, like, you know, firmly? And he's like, no. That was the best decision at the time. I would absolutely do it again, but circumstances have changed. Now we have to reevaluate, make this new decision. And it's like, this is one of the things that makes Morden so terrifying, because he is just a pure utilitarian pragmatist. Everything is logic. Everything is what will do the greatest good for the greatest number of people, and then he'll do whatever it takes to achieve that goal.
Yep. It's what made him so ruthless in the second game when you first meet him.
It's how he justifies war crimes to himself. Because technically, greatest good, greatest number of people.
Yeah.
Leaping away from Morden, down one deck, John and I had a conversation about Kenneth. So we walk in, and Ken is talking about Trainer.
Oh, I didn't get this conversation.
Oh, let me tell you about this conversation.
Herein we learned that John is an idiot.
As much of an idiot as Kenneth. So Ken is talking about Trainer, and Gabby's like, you're barking up the wrong tree. And Ken's like, oh, maybe you should go talk to her and send me pictures. And Gabby's like, maybe I should. Nobody's barking up my tree. And Ken's like, good. Send me pictures. And I'm just like, Kenneth, you big fat dummy.
Now, one, Ken's just being gross right here. But apparently, and this is the thing that I did not notice, because I thought Gabby was just complaining that she wasn't getting any, but apparently she was complaining that she wasn't getting any from Ken.
Yes.
I didn't get that. And this might be because I have not gotten all of the, like, sexual tension-filled dialogue between those two, that I didn't pick up on it, but I completely missed it in that moment. I was Ken in that moment, minus the gross comments about Trainer.
Yeah. No, that is the case, and that's not news to me, so you're alone in that table.
Hey, I never claimed to be a smart man. I'm just a highly educated man.
True. That's true.
Walking on Javik, who's chatting with Liara. And Javik gets really worked up, and Liara has this moment of like, I'm sorry, do you want to check your tone?
Yeah.
And Javik's just like, oh man, the previous occupant of this room was really aggressive.
The thing that struck me most about that scene is that Javik actually apologized.
Yeah, I was shocked.
He says that he's sorry for, like, snapping and being aggressive. And you know what? I appreciate you, Javik. You war criminal.
We also find out that Morden asked if he could dissect Javik.
And Javik said, yes, if you can defeat me in battle.
And Morden walked away saying, problematic.
And somehow Javik didn't get what that meant.
Yeah.
Like, Javik, he's saying it would be problematic to actually kill you. You are like unto a god with your gun biotic weird skills.
Yeah.
And then also Javik is like, I don't understand why Cerberus is fighting you. Like, neither do I, Javik. Thank you.
Yeah, not helpful. You are not helpful, Javik.
Javik's perspective is very reminiscent of Leviathan's perspective when you ask them how they could build an AI after seeing what it's done so many times. Leviathan couldn't conceive of a universe that didn't bend to their will, and Javik can't conceive of an empire that isn't wholly united in purpose, because that's what the Prothean were.
Yeah.
And he assumes that, of course, you dum-dums will be just like us because we were the best. No. Humans still can't even get over racism. You think we're gonna... No. Come on, buddy.
Rex also offered Javik a job, saying when he's tired of the cushy life up on the Normandy, he'll give him something real to shoot at.
That seems accurate to Rex's character.
Yeah.
I should also mention that we are, give or take a little editing, 50 minutes into the episode and have yet to get to the main mission. So maybe we'll speed through the last few check-ins.
Well, we had a lot to say.
I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Just, it's funny to me more than anything else.
I only have one thing anyway.
Okay.
And it is Diana Allers.
Oh, yes. This conversation where you can make a choice. Mm-hmm.
It's a conversation happening about Diana is writing an op-ed piece that the Alliance should give up Terra Nova in order to save like 5 other colonies. And this guy's name was also Copeland?
Campbell was
Campbell.
Campbell and Westmoreland, and then this is Copeland. Yes.
Sorry, all the names.
Yeah.
Copeland.
There's a lot of them.
Yeoman Copeland is telling her that she can't say something like that. It's treason. And part of his upset is that he's from Terra Nova, and like there are other people who are also from Terra Nova, and saying something like that implies that like their families' lives don't matter. And I can understand why it would be upsetting to hear. But the primary thing is it's an opinion piece.
Yeah.
Also,
it's not official word of the Alliance. It's an opinion piece from a news station in the Alliance, which is not the same thing.
Also, this is unfortunately, like, these are the types of questions that you're going to have to ask. Like, the scale of interstellar war is so far beyond anything that we can conceive of here on Earth. The Krogan used asteroids as weapons to blow up entire planets and wipe them off the galactic map. Do you think the Reapers are gonna, have tactics that are gonna be any less totally destructive? No. And our resources are finite, and as terrible as it is to consider leaving Terra Nova behind to save 5 other colonies, that is the question that you have to ask.
Yeah.
Totally.
I supported Diana because
So
she's
did I.
entitled to her opinion.
Yep.
And Copeland, you can write an opposing opinion piece. It's not like she's not going to publish it.
Yeah. Well, and also my shepherd said, and I'm assuming yours did too, since I made the same option. It's like, look, you don't have to follow her opinion pieces. You can ignore them. Also, it's not like a personal attack against you. It's an opinion piece.
Shepard gets very aggressive in that moment when you side with Diana Allers. He's like, stand down, yeoman. She's allowed to publish whatever she wants until I say otherwise.
Which is true.
Yeah.
But also, like, damn, Shepard, I don't think that's the tone we were quite going for, but
It wasn't.
Okay.
But here we are.
all right, that's very
Yeah.
authoritarian of you.
And that was really it. Nothing happened with Steve or James that was worthy of talking about.
I mean, the only comment I have about Steve is that when you ask him about the shuttle, he's like, yeah, when a 700 plus pound Krogan tells you to move, you move and you give him the stick, which is fair. And then James just praises Rex more and says, I want to hang out with that guy. And it's like, aw, you're like an unofficial Krogan, James, aren't you?
When he said that, I was like, okay, we'll take you on the next Krogan mission. All right. Stop making me feel bad. So I took Garrison James.
I took James and Liara.
I think that I usually take... honestly, I usually take Garrus and Liara on most missions just because I like them the most. I can't remember if we get Tally in 3.
We do, just not for a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Once I get Tally, I usually bring her. But when I did the playthrough for the book, I brought Javik along for most missions just because I wanted to get the perspective of like a 50,000-year-old, like way out of his cultural zone character.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. That must have the most interesting things to say from that perspective, at least.
Especially if you bring Javik along on the Rannoch missions with the Geth. He has some very interesting things to say to Edie that are super racist.
Oy, I'll have to keep that in mind.
On the shuttle, when we're kind of giving a recap of our experience with Arachni, James is very upset with us that we let the Arachni Queen go.
Yep.
And I can't say to him, like, look, my dude, I wasn't going to commit a genocide.
Right. Well, what's interesting is like, so for me, I had Liara, and Edie is still speaking, even if she's not there. She's speaking
Yeah.
to the ship. And like, both Liara and Edie just casually talk about the Rachni and letting this queen go. And James is just like, I'm sorry, what? Slow
You did
down.
what?
Yeah. And like, and he's like, how could you do that? And Shepard, what I like about my Shepard, and I assume yours did the same thing. Again, Mark Meer and Jennifer Hale are at their A game in this game. Like, the way he delivers, no, it was the right thing to do. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so powerful when Shepard says that, because it was obviously the right thing to do. You don't want to commit a genocide, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I was a little disappointed with James just being like, oh yeah, I love Krogan. Didn't even interact with my son. Didn't have anything to say about it the entire time. Like, my son just, like, charges through all of his friends. Like, my mom is here!
Or dad.
Yeah.
He's so happy to see me.
My notes on Grunt coming through all of his friends is literally just Grunt in all caps, taking up like a third of the page. It's just Grunt. I love him so much.
I love him too. He's my lizard son, and he's voiced by my favorite voice actor of all time, Stephen Bloom. I love this moment because it is very much, and I know there's more of this in Citadel, which I haven't done that DLC yet, but like I've heard rumors. Grunt is very much your child in this moment, excited to see their parent come see them. Like, it's very much that energy, and I love it. I really enjoy it. And watching Grunt shift from stalwart commander to son of a human is really a fun shift, because he does it several times in the conversation and the follow-up conversation.
Yeah, like, he code switches really easily to be like, I'm in charge of these people, but also my mom. My mom is here.
Grunt has no concept of toxic masculinity. Like, he's a big, tough boy, and he'll smash his way through his problems, but also, like, he just loves his mom.
Yeah.
We also get another reference to Just Like Old Times. For me, it's Garrus who says it.
Yeah.
And he also says, little guy's all grown up. Makes me happy.
One of my favorite moments in this first conversation with Grunt is when he talks about the Rachni. He does it wistfully. There's a moment where he talks about the Rachni and then he looks up to the sky and goes, the Rachni. And then goes back into the conversation. And it is very much like a musical number's about to start kind of pause moment of like pride. It's so great. I love it. He has no context.
Because he says a chance to fight the old enemy. And he says something about like his blood burns or itches or he makes some like there's a physical reaction in his blood to the just idea of fighting the Rachni that he has so many images of in his head from Okeer, but like no Krogan probably in living memory has actually fought Rachni except for Rex.
That's true.
If you brought him with you.
You can't bring him with you.
No, in one.
Oh, in one.
In one.
Sorry.
Rex
sorry.
fights the Rachni.
I thought we were talking about in this mission. I was
No,
we can't
Varia.
bring him?
No Varia.
What's happening? Anyway, we find out that Grunt spent some time on Tachanka learning how to be a Krogan, because everything that he knew when we first met him, he learned from imprinted memories.
Yep.
And we find out that Arlac Company is a united force of different clans.
Yep. And they're considered the best of the Krogan.
Yeah.
And that it was kind of a no-brainer for Grunt to lead them, which is like,
Yeah.
I had a moment of parent pride when Grunt tells me that. Like,
My son.
I also like that Arlac Company is named after the sun that Tuchanka orbits, and that it means in the Krogan language, Eye of Wrath.
Yeah.
Which is
That's
it's
cool.
that's just cool. It's just a fun thing that you now know.
So I'm gonna call myself out. I was trying to like look around and collect some loot before I began the mission, and I was like, "Oh look, there's this like a little prefab unit over here."
Oh my god, did we do the same thing?
Did we do the same thing? I was like, "Okay, let me see if there's any loot in here, and then I can continue." And then the second I walked in, it just tumbled down. I was like, "Motherfucker!"
Yep, I did the same thing.
I remembered that was a fall there, and I thought you were just ready to go on because it's right past the second conversation point with Grunt. And it's like, I knew what was going to happen. So when MJ just went, oh shit, when it started to fall, I laughed. Because
Yeah, I completely forgot, and I jumped. Like, it startled me because I just totally didn't remember that happens at all.
Hey, that just means that that's good game development by BioWare.
Yeah,
Because
no,
if two
totally.
people who have played this game as many times as you two forgot that moment was there and were startled by it, that's good work, BioWare.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, MJ has played it more than me. I've only played through this game once or twice, the third one. And also, it's kind of lore and common knowledge for the podcast that I don't remember shit. So that too.
I was just so focused on finding loot.
Same.
I was just
Because
like,
also
give me
Grunt
more
goes-
things.
Because also Grunt is like, take what you need, make sure you gear up and then we'll move forward.
And one of the things that you can get is a giant Krogan Claymore shotgun.
Yeah, I got
Which-
that.
A shotgun that comes with the Grunt action figure that I have.
Yes, a shotgun that I assume you both just gave to James immediately.
Yeah.
I did. I didn't take it because I leveled up my shotgun, and so it was better than the base level Claymore. But you can bet your ass once I get the higher level version of the Claymore, I will be using it.
Hey, Matt, what shotgun are you using, just for my edification?
Shit, what the hell is it called? I'm blanking on it. I will come back to you. I will double check the name of it, and I will get back to you.
Cool.
Okay. So yeah, we tumbled down into this ravine. We're separated from Arlok Company, but that's okay. We can still progress and we'll meet up. It'll be fine. I hate the Rachni. I hate them. It's the worst. There's just like little skittering bugs in the corner of the screen. And they're distracting, and I hate them. They're terrible.
And apparently the Rachni make webs now?
Well, it's a Reaper invention.
No, I thought the Reaper invention was the metal plates that come up. I thought the webbing was...
Both are.
Ah, okay. I thought the webbing was something that Okay, all right. Because I thought that it was just something that the Rachni apparently made now and that we didn't get to see on Novaria. But that makes sense.
Yeah, when we run into Grunt again, he says the webbing isn't like real webbing. It's some kind of like Reaper tech.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
To answer John's question, I am using the M27 Scimitar,
Okay.
which happens to be my favorite of the shotguns just because it's the fastest reloading, largest clip shotgun. And I rather have more shots than bigger shots.
I like the Geth shotgun
The Geth shotgun's pretty great.
if I'm going to use one because it allows me to fire at longer range and I hate being close up to enemies.
Right. Well, for me, my whole build is around being close to enemies, so it's a different story.
I don't really have a lot to say about the combat here, except for I hate it, because when there's the eggs that you have to destroy, and then sometimes when you destroy the eggs, there's like little swarmers inside of them, and then there's also the Reapers with their like egg sacs attached to them, and like,
Ravagers.
I hate it.
Yeah. If you kill the Ravagers by headshotting them, the Swarmers won't pop out of their bellies. But if you shoot them in the bellies, which is the bigger target and the easier one to hit, you will then have to contend with Swarmers.
Yeah, I didn't hate it.
Pro tip.
I didn't hate it here, mostly because the Dead Scouts kept me fed in flamethrowers, and I just used them without caution.
I use them as well.
But also, like, while the eggs exploding in melee does knock out your shields, since my whole build is based around using my shield to do an explosion, and that already drains my shield, and I have the max level so I can do my like melee explosion while my shields are depleted once. That's all I did. And so like it was a lot of charging or using the flamethrower and hiding. And so I expected it to be tougher for me than it was, but I think also had there not been all those flamethrowers, it probably would have been much worse.
I feel very bad for those Krogan scouts. Like, goddamn, the just amount of dedication to their mission that they all just went as deep into this inescapable cave as they could to die and leave behind flamethrowers for the next people. And poor Char. Y'all remember Char
Yeah, I was
from
about to
ME2?
bring him up.
Yep.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. He left a message for his partner, Araba.
Which is a sad end to Char, and it's
The
interesting.
Blue Rose of Ilium.
The blue.
Yeah, that's not a fun conversation to have on the Citadel. She's at one of the shops. She's
Yes. She runs the gift shop, which
Yeah.
is called the Blue Rose.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have fun with that in your next episode, maybe.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, have fun. I won't be there.
After we find Char, James has this moment where he's like, oh man, I think they're breeding an army. And I'm like, really? Is that what you think is happening?
James, what did you think?
I'm so glad I brought you.
James, what did you dense motherfucker?
Oh,
What did
where
you
would I be?
think?
He is the definition of galactic himbo. So, like, that's just, he's real nice and means well.
I would be lost without his poignant observations.
Yeah, this mission, I love the story and the narrative of this mission, but the combat and the mechanics of it are a pain in the ass. And, like, the structure of it is not puzzly. Like, you have to open certain gates, but it's not hard. Like, this mission is after getting so many well-balanced story and combat missions, this one is more heavily enjoyable on the narrative side than the combat side.
Yeah, I agree.
So here's the thing about the combat in this mission, and here's why I like it.
Okay.
It all comes to, and it's because of the narrative. To a certain extent, and it's because of the end of the narrative, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but the fact that the combat in this is like basically like you're dark, you've got a flashlight, you can't see very well, the enemies are basically in a low level of constant. You're just constantly dealing with just like swarms, like a zergling rush of ravagers and swarmers, and when the mission ends, that's why I love it, because it's all been ramping you up for that moment that I will not reveal yet, because that is jumping way ahead. But when we get to that...
I mean, I don't think it's jumping that far ahead, because my very next note is the poor Reaper Queen.
Yeah.
Well, it is a bit beyond that. It's okay. What happens right after.
But no, I can see that though, John. I mean, I don't disagree, and I think like again, and MJ and I have talked about this before. This is another attempt for Mass Effect to be a little spooky, and the earlier part of the mission is kind of spooky before you start fighting the Reapers, and then it just becomes a pain in the ass. But like Mass Effect does do that balance of eerie and the unknown well, and when they do it well, and then make you have these swarms of enemies like the first time you fight the Rachni in the first game, it feels untenable. It feels overwhelming, and that's intentional.
Yep. The Ravagers are my least favorite Reaper variant, if only because, one, they're basically just, especially with the barrier nodes, they're just barrier and armor with no health, so your biotics are, except for warp, useless against them. And two, you've got a very small target in their head, which you can, snipe effectively if you've got the slow time mod on your sniper rifle, but if you shoot their bellies, you get more tiny, dumb enemies to fight that I hate and that are dumb and small.
Fair enough.
So it's just like, then with all the swarms of like husks and cannibals around, it becomes difficult to snipe the Ravager head, which is annoying for me as someone who plays with a sniper rifle a lot.
Fair enough.
We do finally come upon the Rachni Queen, and we get a stronger implication that the Reapers had something to do with the Rachni Wars, because she talks about the sour note of machines. Yeah. And when we first met her, she talked about something similar, and that being what caused the mindlessness of the Rachni Wars, because they were all driven insane. And that's what's happening to her children now.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And like I said at the opening, it didn't. Now, it could be that in my ideal playthrough, I had killed her. I can't honestly remember what I did in my first playthrough, but paying more attention now, as we are prone to do for the point of this podcast, when Shepard gets frustrated that like you released her and then she ended up like this, it made a connection that I'd just not gotten before, that this is the same Rachni that you released on Noveria. And I don't know, there was just something really fulfilling to that, as frustrating as it is, that I just never made that connection before. And I guess it should be obvious, but I guess I just didn't pay close enough attention. I was just like, another Rachni Queen, whatever.
Thinking about the impact the Reapers had on the Rachni really gives you a scale to the galaxy. Mm-hmm. Because you explore a good part of the Milky Way galaxy throughout 1, 2, and 3, but there's the Rachni are still in the Milky Way galaxy. The Mass Effect, the relay system, is only in the Mass Effect galaxy as far as in the Milky Way galaxy as far as we know. But there are still there are a bunch of mass relays that are just turned off and that we don't go beyond anymore. And Rachni space is one of those areas. And who knows how big Rachni space actually is and how many other species there are in the Milky Way galaxy that we just never dealt with. But the Reapers have access to all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the decision, do we help her escape or do we cover Arlac Company instead?
And so I helped her escape. And I like that when you make that choice, Grunt essentially just goes, shit, fine.
Yeah, he's not happy about it. I also make that choice. I'm not happy about Shepard saying she's too valuable an asset. That's not the reason I'm making this choice.
Me neither.
It's because she's a victim.
Yeah.
I also choose to, I always save the Rachni Queen. I feel very, very bad that I have to, like, Arlac Company dies. They all die, and it's sad, and I hate it, and it sucks because, but also like you never, they never get humanized to you. No. Like you never spend any time with them, and most of them are wearing masks, so they just seem like, well, grunts, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
The difficult part is Grunt going to die? And the first time you play this, you don't know if Grunt's going to die. But I also can't be party to, like, you know, leaving the Rachni Queen, the last Rachni Queen, so far as we know, to die.
I will also say that this scene in the previous game, or previous 2 games ago, in Noveria, she's talking through one Asari. Her talking through a chorus of dead Krogan scouts is haunting and beautiful.
It is.
Like, it's just this weird, dissonant harmony that's just so interesting and so fascinating from an audio perspective.
It's impossible for me to avoid metagaming this mission at this point, so I have very specific reasons why I choose to save the Rachni Queen beyond just the fact that it's the right thing to do. I also hate the fact that she's referred to as an asset. Like, that's not why. No. That's a horrible reason to say. I would save her even if she never helped in the war at all, because it is the right thing to do. But, you know, then, like, Arlac Company covers her escape, and you all, like, make a run for the shuttle, and, like, you'd say to Cortez, okay, we're the last ones here, fire it up.
But before we get to that, like, the scene that they show of Grunt, like, it's just so well done. Again, I mean, I've talked at length about the cinematography in this game, but like I don't know about you, MJ, but like for me, seeing him fight that way and like yelling and reacting, like it filled me with pride and sadness at the same time.
Yeah, it was a really intense fight scene. Grunt basically makes a sacrifice play. He tells us that he'll cover our escape. And as far as we know, he could die. And he's doing it to make sure that we can get the Rachni Queen out. And he just dives in and he shows why he is the best Krogan. Like, he's the purest, most distilled form of Krogan.
Yeah, and like that fight scene too, like shotgun, loses the shotgun, grabs one of the cannons of the Rachni and starts beating them, making them shoot each other, throwing them. Like, it's awesome to witness.
Also, the music. It's not like a hard, heavy bass, like the kind of thing you'd expect for like basically a berserker. It's this sweeping orchestral that's just so much more powerful for the fact that it's like there's no drum beat to it that you might expect from a scene like this. It's basically just strings, and it's so well done. And oh my God, the first time I played this, I was so nervous for Grunt, but
he does emerge covered in gore.
Disgustingly. Ask me
if anyone has something to eat.
Yeah.
So, and here's where my metagaming decision comes in, because if you do Grunt's loyalty mission in 2, and if you secure his full loyalty, he'll survive no matter what you do. Uh-huh. But if you don't secure his loyalty, he will die if you have him save the Rachni Queen.
I never knew that.
Because he's... Yeah. A lot of things that I learned doing research for a book that I wrote about this, because of decisions that I never thought to make. But when I was looking into like the wiki so that I could get like proper citations for things, I learned a whole bunch of things. Grunt will die if you don't secure his loyalty in 2. But if you get his loyalty, he will survive no matter what you choose.
That's amazing. Yeah, and like that final scene where he comes out covered in gore, as MJ put it, like, it's disgusting. Like, the graphics are really good. Gross. It's just gross. And
he asks if anyone has anything to eat, because he's just So
He's a growing boy.
That actually speaks towards your point, Matt, about how much energy the Krogan use, because like Grunt, like by the end of it, was probably just tearing these Rachni apart with his bare hands and just hurling them and punching them to death and ripping them open. And it's like, yeah, no, he tired now.
Somebody get him a snack.
Yeah, he basically used all of his barbarian class rages for the day, and now he's got a lot of fatigue points.
Please get him a fruit juice and some orange slices.
Get him some orange slices and a high C. And a whiskey.
We forgot to mention during the mission the most Grunt moment ever that they make him do whenever he can, but like when you're across the like 2 passes in the caves from him and they're just fighting, he's just throwing Rachni and he just yells, "I am Krogan."
Oh, I thought you meant the moment where he just yelled, "Shepherd!"
Yeah, I mean that too. Like Grunt yells a lot and it's okay.
And then that is the end of the mission, but that is not the end for us because we are brought straight into a cutscene where Mordin lets us know that he has synthesized the cure.
Yep.
And he is ready.
And that then he starts to do what he does, which is trying to prattle off options and declining his own suggestions. And then Victus reminds them that there's a facility on Tuchanka that they use to spread the genophage that could also be used to spread the cure. And like, there's this moment where Rex looks at Victus and just like, "You son of a bitch. You clever son of a bitch." Like, it's just half respect, half disgust. It's really, it's quite funny.
And that the Shroud did have a good purpose, because before it was used to spread the genophage and the genophage modification, it was used to repair Tuchanka's atmosphere following the nuclear holocaust that the Krogan had inflicted upon themselves. And that was one of the things that the Solarians did, quote, altruistically, unquote, as they were culturally uplifting the Krogan. They just happened to then use it for, 2 genocides. Well, technically they used it for 3, because if we're counting the one against the Rachni.
Yeah.
So, hey, Solarians, be so much better. Oh my god, you're terrible.
But yeah, this is essentially to let us know that we're set, and then we have a brief conversation with Hackett after that, where Hackett's less than happy that we let the Rachni Queen go again.
You know what? He says we've been burned before, and I'm like, no, we haven't. She was doing perfectly fine.
Yeah.
She got kidnapped. That's not her fucking fault.
We've been burned before implies that the Rachni Queen betrayed us here, but she didn't. She was brainwashed and had her mind taken over by the Reapers. That's not us getting burned. That's her getting screwed. Hackett, get some perspective, my friend.
Anyway.
Why is Mass Effect 3 just a continual series of us being disappointed in adults?
I mean, and it's funny too, because after that conversation happens, when you walk away, Trainer tells you that Admiral Datterson is available on VidCom, and I wanted to talk to him right away, but I'm like, no, that's for the next mission. I need my dad right now.
All right, so that was the mission. Any other notes before we move on?
I think in summary, I enjoy the mission. Despite its flaws, but it's definitely a hiccup in the last couple of missions, which I've genuinely really enjoyed. This one, the Rachni bullshit is exactly that, Rachni bullshit. But narratively, it's still one of my favorites because I love Grunt. He's my son.
My biggest complaint over this mission is still always going to be the fact that it feels like the choices that we made in 1 don't really have an impact. Because it's not that hard to gather up enough war assets to defeat the Reapers. So, like, if you kill the Queen in 1 and then the Reapers synthesize, like, a fake one in 3, and even if, like, she can't form an imprint connection with her children and she decides to screw you over, like, with the thing, like, that's still really not going to... You don't get enough war assets from the Rachni anyway that if she decides to screw you over, it's going to affect your ability to do this. Because, like... I collect every single war asset possible, so by the time I'm even halfway through the game, I've maxed out my war assets. Like, I can gain more, but it doesn't actually affect anything, like, on my war asset table. I'm still as prepared as I can possibly be, because it never allows you to pass beyond 50%, which is annoying. So I'm just a little annoyed that it feels like, my choice in 1 is taken from me in this mission.
Sure.
I have no other notes.
Okay. Then shall we move on to Fandom Corner?
Fandom Corner!
Fandom Corner.
So I have included something that I think, Matt, you're going to get a huge kick out of. It is an honorary mention because it's just one item. And it is Leela from Futurama dressed as Commander Shepard in the N7 armor as a sticker. It's really, really cute.
It's amazing. I love it.
Yo, I'm also going to get a kick out of this. Oh, hell yes. That is some capital G, capital S good shit.
The seller is named The Atomic Sushi, which is a very cute name. They're very low in stock, so if you are a Futurama fan and a Mass Effect fan, look up Futurama Leela Mass Effect sticker on Etsy. But the main attraction is that someone out there is preaching to my very specific choir again. There is an Etsy seller called Shikarian Crafts, and they have a whole store just for me!
Yes, it's all Garrus. All Garrus all the time.
And one Nihilus piece, which how dare you?
Yeah, a Nihilus mask that says, I breathe better on my own.
I'm talking about the Nihilus quote that says, could have had me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you move fast enough, you can save Nihilus in 1.
No.
No, you cannot.
No,
It's
you
not
can't.
possible.
Don't lie to our listeners.
Do not do that.
You listen, you can't do that. I just love teasing MJ with it because it you know,
It makes me upset.
yeah.
Because it's false. But yeah, and that's Shikarian Crafts. They're based out of Seattle. I am probably going to get myself a tote that says some women find scars attractive.
There's no Shepherd without Vicarian items. It's a great shop. There's a lot of really cool stuff. I love the artwork.
There's Can It Wait for a Bit. I'm in the middle of some calibrations on a face mask.
Yep, there's an I Got Your 6 on a face mask. If you need face masks, buy them here because you need to still wear masks.
Yes, wear masks.
When I first glanced at the one that said I've got your 6, I thought it said something entirely different.
I thought so too. That's not a great font.
Yeah.
Do you accept constructive criticism, Shikarian Crafts? Because I love your stuff, but that's not a great font, my love.
At first glance, it does look like I have a very different word on it's a bag, actually. It's
a
not a
makeup
face
bag.
mask. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a makeup bag.
Yeah, thank God it's not a mask, because that would be a weird thing to have on my chin.
Yep. Okay, we don't have any new reviews or emails to share.
Nope, we do not. But if you would like us to read your review or email on the show, you should write us one or send us one. Any podcast platform is great to have a review. iTunes is best only because it gives us an opportunity to become featured or at least promoted in a different way. But yeah, if you submit a review, we'll read it right here where I'm talking right now until we move on to wrapping up the show, which I guess we'll do right now.
Are you sure? Is that what you want to do right now? Do you want to wrap up the show?
Are we wrapping up the show?
We could wrap up the show. Are you
Yeah.
ready to wrap up the show?
I'm fine with wrapping up the show.
I hate you both.
That's a lie.
You at least love John. I know.
We're your favorite podcasters on the Citadel. Ouch.
Half of you are. You can figure out which is which.
I have to go.
No, it's I should go.
Damn it.
Yes, let's do our outro, shall we?
So our next episode is going to be the Turian platoon on Tachanka with our pod pal Abu Zafar from Lore Party Network. We're really excited. John, why don't you take this opportunity to tell people where to find you on the internet?
So many places now, which is why I now have a link tree. It's linktree/John Lestrange Historian, where you can find me in all the places. Because I am on Twitter as Prof. John Strange and as GeneStoryPod. I am on Instagram as _history_wizard. I am on Facebook as John Lestrange Historian. I am also on TikTok, as we mentioned earlier, as the History Wizard. I have a podcast that you should listen to called Jenna Story. We agreed to do this. That is available wherever pods are cast. 3 days after this episode comes out, you will be able to listen to my latest episode on the Cambodian genocide, after which we'll be talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender for a few months, and that should be a lot of fun. Also, I wrote 2 books that you can go find on Amazon called Representations of Genocide in Cartoons and Representations of Genocide in Video Games. Mass Effect is fully half of that second book, so if you like this podcast, you'll probably like that.
All right. If you like what you heard here, follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, facebook.com/reignitepod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're members of the Certain Point of View Podcast Network. Visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can find a permanent invite link to our Discord server there as well. We talk constantly about Mass Effect on there, as well as other video games and all sorts of other nerdy stuff. And there's a whole channel devoted to keeping things from me. So if that's your bag, you can do that too.
Yes, I am very excited for when we can start the betting pool on certain spoilers that Matt's going to encounter.
I still have to decide where I'm putting my money. It's a very difficult decision.
It's really hard. Matt and I work on some other projects aside from Circle of Friendship and the Rob Thomas No Not That One Robcast. I am also on the cast of Archives of the Dragon, where we stream Changeling the Dreaming. You can catch me playing a punk rock selkie every Friday over at twitch.tv/Archives of the Dragon.
I host a bunch of other shows on this network. I produce and host shows off the network. You can find everything that I do at djstormageddon.com. It goes to my streamer links, which has literally everything that I do, as well as merch that I have for my stuff that I do on my own and some other things, my Patreon, my streaming. I stream at twitch.tv/DJ_Stormageddon. The best place to follow me on social media is also Twitter, same username, DJ_Stormageddon.
We'd like to thank Red Sphinx for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble, featuring our favorite marshmallow, Caden Alenko. You can find more of their work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram. We'd also like to thank Case Aiken for developing more amazing shirt designs that you can find through certainpov.com or on Teespring, specifically the Demilitarized Makeout Zone and Do What Your Space Mom Tells You shirts.
Yep, brand new on the store. Go get them.
We'd also like to thank David Boyle for designing our logo, which you can also get on a t-shirt through Redbubble. And we'd like to thank Dan Bull for letting us use the Mass Effect rap for our theme music. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And I'm John Lestrange. We should go.
You're listening to Reignite. I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Why, hello there, podcast friend. I'm Ash Blodgett, co-host of the podcast Let's Rewatch. Together with my co-host and Red Opera D&D campaign writer Pat Edwards, we made a short film in quarantine called Joining Call. And it's finally coming out. The film is the story of a group of people trying to get together to play D&D via a video chat. But all the usual quarantine issues get in the way, such as kids.
Daddy, is this Game of Thrones?
Bobby, what are you doing?
Daddy,
No, come on, it's bedtime.
Poor internet connections.
Thou must cast ye techno devils from thine magic picture box.
Couples at each other's throats.
I want to blow some ogres up with a fireball.
Why is your first instinct to always kill things?
And more.
Zoe, stop drinking.
Oh, that reminds me. I haven't had the boss yet.
The film basically takes a snapshot of what life is like right now through the lens of nerds. So join us on our quest November 20th over on my YouTube channel, LaughStashTV, for the film's premiere. You can get there by going to youtube.com/LaughStashTV. And that's stash as in STASH. Till then, I'll just be over here practicing my nat 20s. Ooh, critical hit.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.